Hello, we are back. Thrilled to be with you on Midas Touch Legal AF with Court Accountability Action. Thrilled to be joined here with my partner, Lisa Graves, and our friend and ally, the great champion for justice and democracy, Rahna Epting, the executive director of movement organizing juggernaut, MoveOn, harnessing the energy and outrage of millions of people across this country to create real change, to see the change we need to see in this world, to make the world a better place, and to get folks off the sidelines. So grateful to have you join us here today, Rahna. You guys have been driving so much amazing action. Grateful for your time and for all of your work, of course.
Thanks for having me.
So I wanted to dive right in. I mean, it was interesting. The last time we really, I think, dug into sort of the state of how things were feeling in the world of mass mobilizing, movement organizing was pre-election. Folks didn't really know where to go, what to do exactly. And then I think that really sort of continued into the early days of the Trump administration as we saw this shock and awe offensive of all the executive orders. And then within days, really, it became clear the extent to which Trump and his cronies were outsourcing the seizure of our government, the effective buyout of our government by these private billionaire tech interests like Elon Musk, who has, I think, really galvanized folks against it. And you guys have just been, leaning into this and driving action. What were those first few weeks of this new era like? How were you processing it, and how did you guys respond with some of these amazing actions to particularly shine a light on Musk as a flashpoint for this outrage?
Yeah, so you make really good points. I'd say right after the election, our sense was second time around of a Trump win, the energy would feel different, not the same thing. And it really was. People were down in the dumps. I don't know. I was too. Weren't you guys? People were down in the dumps, but that doesn't mean they didn't care. And we knew that. And so we were able to get 140,000 people on a call within 2 days after the election results came out. We knew people cared. Were they going to the streets? No. But was that strategic at the time? No. So that's okay. And those folks organized community meetings across the country and in small towns and big cities, throughout the United States in November and December, in the hopes of just reminding folks we're not alone. There were 75 million people who affirmatively did not vote for Donald Trump. We knew they didn't care about the outcome of the election, but what can you do is the question. And we knew there was nothing we could actually do about this until this guy got into office, and there was actually basically a game to be playing, right? But until he was in office, what could we do? The fact is he outright won the Electoral College votes, even though it was by a razor slim, historically slim margin.
And with a huge assist, as we often talk about here on the show, from John Roberts and his right-wing majority on the Supreme Court, helping them every step of the way. So
yes.
Can't forget that.
Yes, very much. But, as soon as Trump got into the Oval Office and he started issuing one executive order after another and trying to portray he's this strong man who knows what he's doing, I think it was pretty clear that he doesn't know everything. Maybe they've wisened up, but they're not the sharpest tools in the shed. I mean, think about just day one, or even before the day before, he did a whole crypto scam, and basically bilked a bunch of money off of the voters because he was about to step into the White House. And then he followed that with his inauguration and had these billionaires, the richest men in the world, sitting right behind him. And his regular voters couldn't even get into the inauguration. He tried to shrug that off. And then all these executive orders coming out, none of them helped decrease prices for the American people or make the economy better. So that's when we knew, okay, we're not getting, Trump 1.0. We're getting more Madison Square Garden Trump 2.0. And he might have won technically the election, and his brand might have helped carrying him through, but his agenda is going to be massively unpopular, and he's not being smart about this. There's so many different ways he could have come out the gate. He came out the gate with red meat to his base, not for stuff that was going to be massively popular with people. And so that affirmed our theory that as he starts doing things, regular folks are going to start getting really fucking pissed. And I think that's where we are right now. And we're just starting to see that build. I think we're in the very nascent stages of broad, popular, public opposition across geography, across gender, across political ideology. I mean, you take my sister's Medicaid away in North Carolina, not a political person, she's going to start to get really mad. You take, our parents' Social Security checks come late or don't come or are decreased or somebody else's is delayed. I can't retire until I'm 72 now and get my Social Security check. Like, that is not a partisan thing. And so we moved into action. We said, okay, we know the energy is out there for people to take action. Now's the time to go. So you saw week 2, we did like this, the first public thing in front of the Treasury.
Yeah. And after the big, funding freeze and the takeover of all the payment systems and Musk and Doge. Yeah.
Yeah. And Sunday night, we thought of the idea with our partners, and I thought, well, I don't know, you think people are ready? But we made the call. We hosted the action, and 3,000 to 4,000 people showed up. We were hoping to get a couple hundred, 3,000 to 4,000. I know that's in DC. I know a bunch of nerds live in DC. They care about this stuff, but it's a data point that told us, okay, I think people are starting to pay attention and starting to want to do something about it. And I think those recess actions, we can talk more about that over the last week, where you saw regular folks going to these town halls in deep red districts. We didn't organize some of those. We didn't organize most of those. We did organize some. We said to people, go talk to your member of Congress. But a lot of what you're seeing out there is organic anger about what they're seeing Trump and Musk do, and they're not going to stand for it. So yeah, I'm hopeful.
I was going to say, having worked along policy issues in DC for a long time, getting 3,000 people out pretty quickly in DC is actually a substantial feat. I've seen a lot of events that have a couple hundred people on the right or the left. And so that was big. And also just getting the coverage of people standing up and speaking out against this. Just so appreciate all the work that you and the team at MoveOn is doing, Rahna. I wonder, when I talk to people about what's happening, what these edicts, these dictates from Trump and Elon Musk, they are deeply unpopular, notwithstanding some sort of generic polling about immigration or whatever that you sometimes see pop on the news. The reality is that people, I think, are shocked. And as you said, more than 72 million people voted, for the Democratic candidate, but in fact, 78 million people voted for someone other than Trump. And then there are all the other millions out there who didn't vote at all, but are about to be hit with these radical reactionary cuts, cuts to Medicaid, the destruction of having people at our public parks, just issue after issue. So I wonder whether you could just share a little bit about some of the most inspiring things you've seen. Certainly for me, seeing that pushback at those town halls in red districts was super important. And those members, the Republicans and Democrats, need to be hearing from people, and they are. And to me, that's just deeply inspiring. But I wonder if you could share a little bit more about some of the things that are really inspiring you.
Yeah. Oh, I like that question. That's a fun one. Well, I'll just say, it's very clear to me, not a single institution or a single leader or a single political party is going to get us out of this. It's going to require all of us to lead in our own way that we know how. And I am very inspired by the organic energy we're seeing out there. I mean, you see these distributed protests by this unknown entity 5051. Like it's a very diffuse organizing apparatus. There's no one leader behind it. This is really just regular folks who are upset and want to do something about it. That is good that people are doing that.
Economic boycotts of Tesla today.
Yeah. The Tesla boycotts, the Tesla share going down the toilet. Like, and then you've got globally people are organizing boycotts and protests of Tesla. Like, the most inspiring moment is when there's so much happening, you can't keep track of it in terms of people speaking out and taking action. But I'll say the most inspiring moment for me was Bishop Buddy at the National Cathedral, when she used the opportunity to speak directly to Donald Trump with a clarity of morality and the speaking of Jesus Christ, who I am not religious, I am not Christian, but if anything is more simple, the concept of mercy. And it was just so beautiful how she did it. And the fact that she did it was so courageous. And I think it really struck a chord with so many people across the country that were just looking for people to use their platform, use the power they have to say no. And I think we're seeing more of that every day. And which that is what gives me hope, because this is not, I think like a lot of us tend to catastrophize and presume everything Trump and Elon want to do will actually all happen. But it won't, because you know why? There's tens of millions of people in this country who are highly opposed to it, highly offended by it, who their lives are going to be ruined by their policies and aren't willing to just lie down and roll over and let them do whatever they want.
That's such a good example, Rahna. I'm glad you brought it up, because the courage is exactly the inspiration there, right? Because so much of what they're doing with this shock and awe is designed to project this strongman, force and intimidate people from not being able to exhibit that courage. And that's what we need to foster and continue to manifest in that model. I wonder what you think of how that has played out among our nation's elected leaders, particularly the Democrats. I think we were talking before the show, but it's been a sort of a mix, right? There's been a lot of, certainly at the outset, with ideas like Doge, ideas like efficiency and getting rid of waste, fraud, and abuse. There's a lot of political kind of salience to those ideas, and there was, I think, too much, frankly, of a willingness to take them at face value as they advance this like very transparently corrupt agenda. And I think in large part thanks to the organizing you've done, these actions, the calls that you've been flooding members' offices with, and red and blue states alike, red and blue districts alike, we've started to see some change. But how do you see the Democratic establishment? How do you see the kind of younger generation? I want to get into, before we close out, this amazing event you've got coming up on Tuesday as a prebuttal to the State of the Union, featuring some of, I think, the bravest and most courageous and most incisive voices in that party. But can you give us sort of a diagnosis of where the Democrats are at and whether they're responding to these types of concerns that your base is mobilizing?
Yeah. So look, my most generous interpretation of the moment and where Democrats are at is they didn't know what version of Donald Trump they were getting either in the beginning. So I was giving them a lot of leeway. Like, they've got to find their footing. How are we going to deal with this? Because he did win the election, but how? Like, there's a lot of different interpretations out there about why we lost, and everyone is there's no consensus. So you've got some Democrats that think we lost because we moved too far to the left, which I don't know what they're talking about, because we did not. But then you have others that believe we lost because the party forsaked the base, right? And wasn't listening to the voters and what the base wanted. And no one agrees. So that's why you see people orienting differently, or you see Democrats orienting differently, and there's no unification. And so I was like, okay, well, let's see what version of Trump we're getting. And we saw very clearly in week one what version we're getting. And then he put Elon in the White House. And I was like, okay, guys, enough deliberating. We're getting the worst version. Let's go. And now let's create opportunities for Democrats to lead and see who shows up. And so we've got some great folks that are showing up for the people. And I think we should focus on celebrating them and create FOMO for others. You want to get the love, you want to get the appreciation, then be like Jasmine Crockett, be like Senator Chris Murphy, be like Brian Schatz, be like, that's kind of the best way, I think, to go about this. And we have seen them come out in droves. Representative Maxwell Frost is the one who connected with us that Sunday night and said, heard you're doing a Treasury thing. We want to go and try to get in there and see and talk to Elon and see what's happening. Great. Let's do it. Let's do it together, because, again, this isn't about one single leader or a party or an institution, or no one's going to say it's us working together. And that's exactly what we need to do. So, yeah, so we've got this event. So Trump is giving this joint address to Congress on Tuesday. And I mean, it's going to be a pack of lies. The gaslighting this man does, one lie after another, is infuriating. And so we were like, how are Democrats are they going to go? What are they going to do? How are they going to handle this as business as usual? Who is going to lead with moral clarity? Because if I watched that joint session on Tuesday and everyone's sitting there and clapping like business as usual, I might lose my goddamn mind. So, good news. We've got some who already are very clear this is not business as usual, and we're gonna bring them together on a Calling BS live stream Tuesday at 8:15. And we've got a bunch of folks that are going to join us for not just fact-checking Trump and his lies, but also joking and making fun of him at his expense in real time once the address starts. People can go to moveon.org/TrumpBS and sign up. And we're also going to be moving people into action on that call as well. But it'll be super fun. We've got this is not your typical live stream. We're going to have a great time poking fun at this monstrosity that we are sure to watch on Tuesday night, but we're going to do it in a way that is empowering us to actually make an impact and continue to drive and support the people out there that are upset, to make sure their voices are heard in the halls of Congress. And we're not going to stop.
That's great. I would say that backslash is one of the best backslashes I've heard, /Trump BS. And also, the idea of really holding on to joy and creating joy in the midst of this, how satire can be so effective against these sort of authoritarian strongmen, and how inspiring that can be to help people, have a way to get through this horrific set of lies that I'm sure we're going to see, as you've described, and have a real prebuttal and ongoing rebuttal that people can latch onto and feel that they're united, that they have other allies, millions of allies across the country in this growing resistance and, fight back for our future. So yeah, hats off to you. And
thank you. Well, I hope everyone joins us because it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, and we'll throw the link in the show notes, of course. Please don't miss that. Check out MoveOn's work in general. If folks are looking for ways to get engaged, to drive action, MoveOn is one of the absolute best ways to do that. I'm so grateful for the work you've done through the decades and the leadership you have led, for years now, Rahna. It's been so wonderful to work with you and to work alongside you. Thanks for joining us. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Legal AF, Midas Touch, and Court Accountability Action. Check us out on Substack at Tilted Scales and online at courtaccountability.org. Until next time, we'll see you.
In collaboration with the Midas Touch Network, we just launched the Legal AF YouTube channel. Help us build this pro-democracy channel where I'll be curating the top stories at the intersection of law and politics. Go to YouTube now and free subscribe at Legal AF MTN. That's at Legal AF MTN.